All right. Well, welcome everybody to our latest webinar. Our title of the webinar today is how to get started on social media and how to build a following. Our presenter today is Dr. Daisy Xu. My name is Chris Menny. I'm the content manager and director of website development with Gold Biotechnology. Gold Bio is a supplier of proven, published, and affordable reagents and chemicals for research labs and small businesses all over the world. We specialize in thousands of day-to-day reagents that you need in the lab, but at affordable rates that you can discover more. So check out our website for all of our products at goldbio.com. So Dr. Xu is currently a postdoctoral research fellow at the St. Genese Laboratory of Scapin's Eye Research Institute of Mass Eye and Ear at Harvard Medical School. She is a current recipient of the Fight for Sight postdoctoral fellowship, and she received her optometry and vision science degree from the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia in 2013, and her PhD from the University of Sydney, Australia, under the supervision of Professor Frank Lovicu in the Lens Research Laboratory in 2019. Her research interests span the role of transforming growth factor beta-induced wound healing mechanisms in the eye to her current postdoctoral fellowship in the retina. And she's very passionate about science communication and sharing her scientific research journey through social media, and has a following of over 10,000 on Instagram and 2,000 on Twitter. As part of the inaugural cohort to complete the Arvo Science Communication Training Fellowship in 2017, and successfully crowdfunded her PhD research project on experiment.com as part of the program's outreach activity. She's given many talks using social media for scientists, including the Scientific Communication Panel for the Northeast Symposium on Biomedical Optics at MIT in 2019, and the American Society for Investigative Pathology workshop on social media for scientists titled Promote Yourself and Your Science in 2020. She has been a co-host of the Peer Review podcast and has been featured on various platforms, including the podcast Her STEM Story, the YouTube channel Scientifically Explained, and the Thermo Fisher Gibco Cell Culture Hero, where she presented a webinar on the use of rat lens epithelial explant systems. Hi, Dr. Xu. Welcome to our webinar today.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go off video for a little bit and let you take care.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you, Gold Bio, for inviting me today to talk about how to get started on social media and build a following. The topics that I'll be covering today include, firstly, setting up your account name, which is also known as your handle, how to post on Twitter and Instagram, examples of what to post, so some ideas for inspiration, and also how to use tags and hashtags to help you build that following. The differences in the content that is seen on Instagram and Twitter, and also differences in the demographics of the people who use Instagram and Twitter, and also how to use Twitter bots to promote your posts, especially if you're just starting out and you don't have much of a following yet. And finally, starting a personal website to act as your online CV and help to collate your social media presence. So a bit about background about me, that Chris has already done an excellent job of introducing me. You'll find me on Instagram and Twitter via @iDaisyXu. So in 2013, I finished optometry school and I worked as an optometrist for 2 years before I started my PhD at the University of Sydney, where I investigated how cataract forms and how we can block it from forming. And then I moved to Boston to start my postdoc at the St. Genese Lab, where I study age-related macular degeneration. So you can see I'm very much obsessed with the eye, and hence the iDaisyXu. So there are lots of social media platforms out there, from YouTube to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And this is a very dynamic space that's constantly changing, because there are new social media platforms that keep getting added to this list. For example, TikTok, and a lot of scientists are actually hopping on the TikTok train. But for the purposes of this webinar, we'll be focusing on Instagram and Twitter. So why should we use social media as a scientist? Well, it's a great way to network, and instantaneously we can connect with scientists around the world. Also industry, we can connect with different organizations and associations, and also the wider community. So the general public, we can instantly share our latest findings with the wider community. We can also promote our achievements on social media. So if we just published a paper or we just got awarded a grant, we can easily promote that. And we can also learn and keep up to date with the latest research. A lot of the journals are actually posting all the papers that get published and pushing them onto social media. So you can instantly basically just go on their social media outlets and just find out what are the latest papers. And they usually have a very succinct description of what the paper is all about. So firstly, getting started. So from the poll that we ran, it looks like there's a whole big spread of experience with social media, from not knowing what a tweet is to being a hashtag master. So we've got a whole spread. So assuming that you have your Twitter account set up, I'm going to walk you through how to compose a tweet. So this is kind of the anatomy of a tweet. So to compose a tweet, you click on this big blue button here and you'll be directed to this blank screen, which I've already populated with some text. So all the black text is text that's not clickable, and all the blue text is stuff that you can click on and you'll be directed to something else. So in this case, I literally tweeted this last night. I just tweeted about the webinar that I was presenting today and sharing my tips on getting started on social media for scientists and building a following. And this is the registration link. And while this looks like a very long link, Twitter actually abbreviates it for you. So you don't have to worry about kind of shortening that link. There are different websites you can use to shorten links, but Twitter can do that for you. So here, a tag is the @ sign, and that tag is tagging a different account that exists on Twitter. So in this case, I've tagged Gold Bio, and that's really useful because that will then notify the account Gold Bio that I've tagged them in this particular tweet. And what's useful about this is it helps to build that community. So my following that will see this tweet will now be directed to click onto the @Gold Bio account, for example. So that's really useful to build that following. Hashtags are another way to utilize to build a following, in the sense that if you hashtag SciComm, for example, hashtag webinar, hashtag social media, if you click on those, you will be directed to all the different tweets that have also added this particular hashtag in. So this particular tweet will be embedded within the millions of tweets that have been hashtagged with social media, for example. So if you are interested in social media, you'll be clicking on that, and then you could be directed to my particular tweet here. I've also added a photo here, and photos and any sort of visual stimuli are just a great way to basically add a bit of interest to that particular tweet. Instead of having just a chunk of text, now you've got something quite visually engaging to look at. And this will increase the number of likes and retweets that you get typically. If you have a photo, I typically see more engagement with that tweet. So in this case, you can actually add up to 4 photos. You can also add a GIF, but if you've added a photo, you can't add a GIF. That's why that's been blocked out there. You can also add emojis, and you can also schedule the post, and you can also add polls. This particular blue circle here with a bit of grayed out area there, that's the number of characters left. So a tweet is very succinct. There's only 280 characters. So it's a great way to practice succinctly sending out your message, because you are limited by the number of characters. And then once you click the tweet button, that post will be published. Now, when this is an example of what it looks like when it is published. As I mentioned, the link, as you saw previously, was very long, but Twitter will automatically shorten it, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, now there are different ways you can interact with a tweet. So this is one that Gold Bio posted about this particular webinar, and you can see that this heart button here, I've liked it, and I can also retweet it. Retweeting a tweet means that it will now show up on your particular profile, and you can also comment on a tweet, for example, by clicking this button. And a lot of people use the comment section to open up a longer thread. Because you only have 280 characters in your tweet, you can then utilize space in the comments for additional tweet characters for your tweet. So you can, typically I see people write 1 of 5 and then 2 of 5 for each particular comment. And then people can actually expand the number of characters they have by creating this particular thread in the comment section. So polls are a great way to just get engagement, ask questions, and this is another example of a tweet. So in this case, I've asked, which social media platform do you use the most for #SciComm? And I had 4 options here: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And while this was a very biased poll, because I did ask this on Twitter, Twitter by far appears to be the most used platform. And I do find for scientists especially that it is the platform of choice, at least in my opinion. But I do believe that more scientists are on Twitter versus Instagram or Facebook, for example, because it is easier to share links. On Instagram, it's not as easy to have a clickable link, especially in the caption. It isn't clickable for the link as yet, and a lot of people will direct the links to their profile, which where you can have a link in the profile, but that is quite it does make it a little bit trickier to basically like have to get out of that post and then go to the profile to click on a link, whereas all the links on Twitter are instantly clickable. So it just makes it really easy. Another reason why Twitter, I do believe, is the social media platform of choice is because there are more scientists on board, and more of the journals and the industry or the associations for different pathology societies, they're all on Twitter rather than Instagram, I find. So
just real quick. So when you're talking about tweeting and like, so you tweet something and you think it's really clever, or maybe you think it's really important. Is there any value in retweeting your own tweet?
For me, I do find that probably not. The only reason you would retweet it would be to push it higher up, because it will just be on your profile. Because Twitter is so fast paced, there is merit to doing that as well. But within a period of time, like having maybe a week lapsed and then retweeting that will show up, because it's so fast that you'll tweet something really significant that you've worked really hard on. And then you'll start retweeting and tweeting. And if you go to your profile, that'll be lost. So then retweeting that, yes, that would be a great way to do it. So
like, say for instance, like you just published your manuscript or your paper or something in Science, and you published, and so you would tweet that, hey, I look at my paper I just published in Science, or it just came out today, and then maybe a week later I might retweet that just to get it back up in everybody's mind, right? Because again, a week on Twitter is like a year's worth of information in the news, right? Yeah, exactly. It's so fast. Another way you can do it is to pin that particular tweet to the top of your profile. Okay. So that's another way to do it as well. So you can periodically change your most pinned, like your top pinned tweet, for example. Excellent. Yeah. All right. All right. So choosing your handle. So this is a really important aspect because it kind of defines your social media presence. And there are 3 main categories of handles that I've observed over my time on social media. Firstly, you can have a lab name, and that's plain and simple your lab, usually your surname and lab, or sometimes you have a very specific lab name like Lens Research Lab. So it would just be that straight written like that. You can also have your full name, and that's what I've done. This is my colleague, Justin Perino. He's got Perino at Perino Justin. It's very similar to mine. And then you can also have a witty science pun, which I really love. Eric Perkins, his one is allosteric site. So that's really clever, really witty. But whatever you do decide, I highly recommend that you keep your handles consistent across all platforms, because that does make your life easier in the long term.
and easier for people who are tagging you, because they don't have to make a minor adjustment to have your a tweet about you on both Instagram and Twitter, for example. A post that can have easy consistency of copy and paste transfer of that caption, for example. But whatever you do, I do recommend having your own personal scientific handle, especially for those who are starting out in research. If you're a PhD student now, you're in your PhD lab. But guess what? When you move on to your postdoc, you're not going to be creating content for your PhD lab anymore. And it's nice to have that continuity in your own Twitter account. And in fact, if you create your own personal scientific Twitter account, then you can actually track your achievements. It's essentially a chronological sequence of your achievements over your scientific career. So it's nice to keep that track of that. Whereas if you solely rely on your lab one at the time, well, when you move on from that lab, you will essentially kind of lose all of that information. Formatting your bio is also very important. For me, so for my Twitter one, I have decided to put essentially my whole CV in as succinctly as I could within the character count. And so I've done my postdoc and my PhD, my optometry degree. I put that all in there, and I've made them all clickable. So instead, I could even hashtag postdoc actually. So all of mine are essentially blue, i.e. they are clickable. So that's a great way of doing it as well. And that way you can, if you're interested in hashtag optometrist, then you can click that yourself, and you can see all the posts that pertain to that particular hashtag. Another way of doing it is just keep it nice and simple, just all black, just text about the association. For example, this is the ARVO, Association for Research in Vision Ophthalmology, keeping it nice and simple. Instagram, I followed a similar trend for my Instagram and having everything that I could potentially tag tagged. So all the different institutes that I'm associated with, I've tagged that. As you can see, there's less tags here because not as many of the institutes or labs that I've been part of are actually present on Instagram compared to Twitter, where I do find more labs and institutes, associations are present on Twitter. So they do have accounts which you can tag. And I've put my website there as well. And I've added some emojis because that just adds a little bit of fun to your account. UDelaware, I recently did a talk for UDelaware, and I just pulled up their Instagram account, and I found that was really cool that there is a lot to be taken in from this. For example, this blue tick, that means it's a verified account by Instagram, that it is the official UDelaware Instagram account and not some fan account of UDelaware masquerading. And then you can see here that UDelaware has specific hashtags like hashtag UDel or hashtag UD welcome or hashtag Blue Hens Forever. These are all things that pertain to UDelaware that they've decided as their official hashtags associated with them. So if you are a student there, for example, and you are doing some research, every time you post something in your lab, then you can hashtag UDel and you can be part of that Twitter, that Instagram conversation, for example.
So can anything be a hashtag?
Yes, that's a great question. You can create a hashtag out of thin air right now. And noting that the spelling needs to be correct, but the capitalization doesn't matter. The capitalization just aids in our ability to read that particular word, like Blue Hens Forever.
Oh, I see. Right.
So the thing is, I could caps the Blue Hens or have like the R as capital for that particular hashtag. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be hashtag Blue Hens Forever. It's still going to show up there. Right. But what matters is the spelling. So that's really important, actually. Some people accidentally have a typo. And then you're like, oh, why isn't it showing up it should be coming up in that particular feed? It's not. It's because of, the typos are really important because then you unintentionally create a typo hashtag. Right. So that's a big issue. So definitely look up the spelling of everything before you hashtag that, because it doesn't matter about capitalization, but definitely in the spelling. And oftentimes I find that Twitter especially is very good. If you have a hashtag and you start to type it out, it will automatically give you the top hits for that. So
useful.
yeah, so you won't have an error with typos.
So then my follow-up question to that is, I hear a lot about hashtag, trending hashtags. How do you get your hashtag to trend?
Yeah, that's the big thing, isn't it? Yeah, well, the thing is, I've always wanted to have a huge conference and everyone tweets at the same time. And I think potentially you could have a trending hashtag. But yeah, no, it's very hard. I don't think hashtag SciComm has ever been trending, even though I use it so much.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, this Linktree thing is very interesting. As I said, Instagram, one of its faults is it's not easily clickable for links. Like you'll post a link in the caption. Like, for example, if I wanted to promote this webinar, it would be quite laborious if I put the link in the description, in the caption. Someone would have to laboriously type it out onto their browser, or they would have to go to my profile and then click that and then be directed to the appropriate links. So the Linktree comes in handy because it allows you, this link will link multiple links, and then you can pick and choose because you can only pick one link for Instagram. So this is GoldBio's Instagram. And so this is an example of having one link. And this is a contest, which is really cool. I love all the different contests, and there's more about that in the slides later. But this is another example of the link, for example. So you can click that and be directed to the contest. So now it's time to build that following. Now that you know how to tweet, it's important for your tweet to reach a wide audience. And a bit about my social media following. Well, I started my Twitter account in August 2015, and now I have 2.8K followers. But I started my Instagram account a lot later in October 2018. But you can see I have a lot more followers, 10.9K followers. And that just speaks to how important it is, I believe, to have a lot of different social media accounts, because you don't know which one's going to pick up more followers. And clearly the followers are different. So your particular tweet is going to post will reach more people, and a wider variety of people as well will encounter your tweets, and you can interact and engage with these different communities. So some examples of different posts that you can different post ideas. So a lot of people, I think a lot of people have resistance to posting on Twitter because they're not sure what constitutes as an interesting, engaging post. Well, in my eyes, I think everything is pretty much postable and interesting. So these are some examples. Obviously, achievements are a great thing to post because you want to celebrate them and you want to share them with everybody. And oftentimes they actually generate the most amount of likes and retweets. So for example, this paper where I as a postdoc, my first paper where I contributed to when I moved to Boston, this is the tweet that got 96 likes and 13 retweets. You can see that it did really well. And I find that a lot of the posts about achievements get a lot of those likes. And I've tagged the lab as well as the institutes, and also linked the website to access the paper. And I've also added the different hashtags. So this way, whoever's looking at this tweet can instantly click on this link. There's no issues whatsoever in terms of having to type out a link or anything. You just click it, access the paper immediately. And that can potentially boost your citations. This is also a great opportunity to tag your lab co-authors or convince them to get onto Twitter. And also tagging your institute is a great idea because institutes typically have more followers than a personal Twitter account. So if your institute then retweets you, well, guess what? You'll get thousands more views potentially. Adding a photo or GIF to your paper often makes it do a lot better in terms of visual engagement. For example, if I didn't have this photo and it was just a chunk of text, well, I don't think it would have got at 96 likes. Hashtagging, hashtag SciComm, hashtag PhD chat. Those are some popular ones with scientists. I find hashtag science, even like hashtag research. Those are also good ones. And for postdoc, hashtag postdoc is also good too. Using emojis liberally is a great idea because that also adds to the visual interest. This is another example of me getting a travel grant. And I've also got the photo associated with that, which is fantastic. And however, this is one where I won an award. However, I had already moved to Boston and I wasn't able to get back to Sydney in time to receive this award. So I didn't have the photo of me with the award, but instead I put a GIF, and it still generated that visual interest with a GIF. So if you don't happen to snap up that photo, well, don't worry, just add a GIF and that's fine as well. So basically, promoting those achievements and promoting your papers will be a great way to boost your citations, get more people to see and read your paper and share it. And they might retweet it as well and share it with their community. Okay. So promoting other people's achievements is also a great idea to do on Twitter. So this is a photo of my supervisor, my PhD supervisor, who won Supervisor of the Year award in 2018. And so I snapped up a photo of this. And as you can see, he's very happy about it. And that got 18 likes. This is an example of a conference award for Professor Fiona Stapleton. And I actually didn't have the photo. So this is a great example of a retweet with quote, which is another way you can do it. If you don't have a photo, for example, someone else has already tweeted about it, but you want to add your, additional text to that tweet, then you can basically retweet with quote and then add whatever associated text you want. Sometimes at conferences, you don't have, things get busy and you don't have time to take a photo. And so someone else might have taken the photo, and you can see here that I've retweeted this particular tweet by Nicole Kant congratulating Fiona Stapleton. I've added some additional text here. One interesting little point that I want to make known is this little dot here, which has tripped me up a bit, back when I first started on Twitter. And now I know the significance of this dot. So when you don't have that dot, if your the first letter of your particular tweet is tagging someone, then that tweet will show up on, I believe it's their feed, but it will be lost. It won't come up on your profile anymore. So having the dot there negates that function. So it will now show up on your profile. You can also do a different way of saying just congratulations at Fiona Stapleton. As long as it's not the at that's first, then you won't lose it. And that happened to me when I was at a conference and I was tagging my friend, and I kept posting the same thing because I was like, it's not showing up. And then after many attempts, I think I must have written something before my friend's name, and then it showed up, and then I realized why people put a dot there. This is an example of a pinned tweet, as we were discussing earlier. What if you got a paper? Well, that is a really significant accomplishment. And it's not something you want to just have 2 seconds dedicated on for your Twitter feed. So definitely pinning that means that you can keep it there for as long as you like, and that will be the top tweet that everyone sees when they access your profile.
So on the Twitter page, how do you pin them?
There is a button, actually. I think if you click that bottom, that arrow, you can pin it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then that way, that forevermore, that will be there at the top.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you can also promote your conference posters. This is an example of one. Conference posters, you've already put a lot of effort into making it very visually and aesthetically pleasing. So you put a lot of effort in. It is also something that's very visually engaging. So snapping up a photo of that is a great way to have another interesting post for people to see. This is an example of a virtual poster. presentation that I did last year, and I obviously didn't have a photo of myself presenting the poster, but I still added a screenshot of the information about that event. So just adding that photo once again is important and helps to create that visual engagement. This is an example of me presenting my poster at a particular conference back in 2017, and I've tagged the association and the hashtag 17. That's the Academy 17. That's the official hashtag for that conference. And it's always good to know what the official conference hashtag is before you go into the conference. And that way you can join in on that conference conversation and start following all the people who are attending that conference and start engaging on that Twitter conversation. You can also be a bit silly and fun about it. My friends, I got my friends to pose in front of their posters, which was really fun. And that gets a lot of likes as well. So, but above all, make sure you first ask for permission before you take photos of posters, because it will be available on the public arena. And so just in case of any data issues, definitely ask first for permission. As you can see, a lot of the photos, they're kind of poor quality. You can't really tell and decipher these tiny words. So it's not too bad. I've also seen some people blur the information in the poster so that you can still sort of tell and have a semblance of a poster. So you can have that photo up if there are any issues about data. And also promoting conference talks is a great way to get more people to attend. For example, I promoted this webinar that I'm giving now, and that way more people could potentially be notified of this webinar and register. So this is a talk that I gave back in 2018 during my PhD. So I've got the official hashtag as well, hashtag BYI 2018. So it's good to always keep that in the hashtags. This is an example of my PI presenting at the Boston Angiogenesis meeting in 2019, and I've snapped up a photo. This is an example of my PhD supervisor presenting a talk. As you can see, I've typically taken the first photo of the title slide as the post, because obviously the second slide might be data, which it's still also important to, first get permission off, the presenter to ask if it is okay. Even the title slide could be an issue in some circumstances, but generally speaking, that's kind of easy because usually the titles are laid out publicly online anyways. This is an example of me presenting a talk on cataract treatment at the ARVO conference, and I've hashtag ARVO 2018. So this is an example of why you don't always need a photo of yourself in tweets. So this is an example of me Thursday of the conference. I've taken a photo of the exhibition hall, and I actually got 16 likes for that. So this is just me getting excited about presenting later in the day, but just having a photo of anything, it just adds that visual engagement. And make sure you find out the specific conference hashtag before going into the conference so you can join in on that conference conversation. When I was making this presentation, I was looking through my Instagram and I found it's also a great way of keeping up to date with all your, keeping memories of all your conferences. For example, this is a karaoke night for one of the conferences where a lot of people, the Elvises came out, and that's a really fun moment in one of the conferences, and me volunteering at a booth, for example. These are all things that you can kind of look fondly back on whilst you're looking back on your Instagram memories. Social media is also a great way to ask for tips. So I really love this particular question that I asked on Twitter, where I have a huge problem. It's the bane of my existence. Bubbles. Bubbles are not my friend. And as you can see, I've got heaps of them here, and I was popping them literally with a needle, and it was insane. So I asked for some tips on social media, and I actually got a lot of likes and comments, and very useful tips as well. So we've got prevention is best and reverse pipetting. and also a quick centrifuge. And then here we've got blowing ethanol vapor, and that is something I use all the time, and it's so fast, so easy, and I love this tip so much. So you can also, if you're ever struggling with any of your experiments, you can actually turn to Twitter to ask for advice, because there's so many scientists there now.
Right.
You can also do,
and in general, you're probably going to get it back responses back pretty fast.
Yeah, responses are almost instantaneous. It's so fast. So yeah, you can like live do your experiment and get feedback instantaneously. Joining in on the fun is a great way to just have some fun while you're doing research. Sometimes it can get a bit dull and you're just doing the same replicating experiments, but or writing, which can be quite tedious. And so joining on the fun is always good. So this is one I posted when I was like writing, and I found a lot of articles were describing receptors and ligands as promiscuous, which I found hilarious. So hashtag #AcWrite, that's hashtag academic writing. And if you click on that, you'd be directed to all these different posts about whether hilarious and poking fun at academic writing or serious actual tips on academic writing. You can be directed to a lot of great content there. There's a lot of funny kind of Twitter accounts. So for example, Homo Academicus. Hopefully you guys aren't falling asleep in this particular webinar. And then this is a great one. Darian Ewan at Lab Shenanigans. He's actually kind of what you would call a celebrity in the science world on social media. As you can see, this particular tweet got 1.4K likes and 120 retweets. He often does a lot of fun like videos, parodies. I think he's also on TikTok. So he's a very entertaining scientist. This is fun. I love the hashtag I should be writing, especially when I actually should be writing, but I'm on Twitter. So you'll be just directed to so many funny posts about people who, well, they really should be writing, but they're bathing their dragon. And this is another funny one because it's so true. When I take photos of my experiments, it's always important to maintain aseptic technique, especially if you're taking photos of your cell cultures. So for me, like it's always, you have to put your experiments first above all, and they take precedence above anything else. So once everything's done, there's nothing time sensitive, then you can stamp up a photo, making sure that everything is sterile and it's all good. I love this particular tweet by Patrick Tate, and he wanted a pink pipette. And his boss said that if he gets 4,000 retweets, then he will get that pink pipette for the lab. And the happy ending to this story is that he far exceeded the 4,000 retweets. And he indeed got his pink pipettes, which was, so you can use Twitter for a lot of different avenues. And looking at my Instagram, I just post like fun photos. For example, I'm just holding 2 pipettes here. And Bri, the science guy, wrote, does having 2 pipettes double productivity? So it's kind of fun. And here my friend made me a shirt. I did a Western blot and all I got was this lousy t-shirt, which is the story of my life with Western blots. And you can see that I've got a lot of engagement. A lot of people find it really hilarious. And they also wanted this shirt, for example. Twitter bots are great to use, especially if you're just starting out on Twitter. Obviously, when you start, you have 0 followers. So building that following is going to be tricky. But there are these accounts like Academic Chatter that could potentially retweet you if you tag them at hashtag Academic Chatter or at Academic Chatter. And look, they have 113K followers. So if they retweeted you, you're going to be instantly seen by so many more people. Hashtag SciComm is an example of a bot, and they explicitly state that. And so if you hashtag SciComm, you could potentially be retweeted, and your tweet will now be seen by 3,000 followers. This is a new one that I discovered that they were retweeting me. Another friendly bot. November 2020 was when it was created. And you can see here that they will retweet these particular hashtags. So if you hashtag these things, then you will potentially be retweeted. And they're slowly gathering some followers, 215 currently. Now, this is great for keeping up to date with the literature. I looked up a couple of these accounts, for example, at DNA papers, DNA methylation papers. So they will automatically share papers that hashtag DNA methylation. So if you follow the account and you're studying DNA methylation, well, you're going to be keeping up to date with all the latest PubMed and bioRxiv papers, which is a fantastic way of getting in the loop with the latest findings.
So how do you find the Twitter bots in the first place?
This one I actually looked, I literally Googled it, but it's kind of, at this stage, I think it's quite early, so it's kind of word of mouth, actually. And it's really just someone taking the initiative to create one who is savvy at technology and Twitter and making bots, which I have no idea. I personally would really like to see one for my research area, which is in like retinal eye diseases. But as yet, I haven't seen one. But whoever created these, they clearly know how to create these bots, which I haven't yet investigated. So at the moment, it's sort of just like word of mouth, and perhaps at conferences they might spruik their thing and say, "Oh, don't forget to follow this. I've created this particular hashtag and account." But as yet, I just Googled these, and these are the ones that came up. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And getting creative, when you run out of ideas of things to tweet, well, you can start getting creative. And this is an example of a project that I ran on Twitter and Instagram called Emojifying Research, where I asked my followers to essentially describe their research in 10 emojis or less, and then add like additional text about it. And this is my one where I study mitochondria and how they play a role in retinal eye diseases. And this is one that I got my PhD supervisor to do one as well on lens research. And then Ralph White 3, who is studying a completely different field to me, prostate cancer, also reached out to me and said he wanted to be part of it. So you can engage, you can see that your following on Twitter can be far reaching into areas that are outside of eye research, which is my particular field, in extending into prostate cancer, for example. Hashtag SciArt is a great one. If you want to get creative, start, kind of doodling or creating artworks. Well, this is one on cellular signaling and that cell-to-cell communication, which I really like. This is a funny one. This is Philip Morgan. He is in optometry. He's an optometry professor, and he did something really funny. So every time he ordered a coffee, he actually, instead of saying his name, he said a piece of ocular anatomy, and he got some very funny responses. And he did that over the course of a year, which is really fun. There are also scientists out there who actually draw other scientists, and at Nina Cheetah, Nina Draws Scientists, we reached out to her and got her to sketch my PI as a birthday present for her, which was really fantastic because we got to get her to draw, for example, blood vessels, because my PI studies angiogenesis, which is really amazing. Turned out really well. And this is another account that I love, Science Bay on Instagram. She actually is really good at makeup and uses her face as a canvas for explaining scientific concepts such as diabetes. So that's another creative way you can create content for scientists. Another great way is to participate in competitions. So BioRender is an app that you can use, so a website you can use to create scientific figures. And they hosted a designer mask contest. So I participated in that. And then Gold Bio also has really awesome, fun contests. So this is one that I participated in back in 2019, the Holiday Lab Decor contest, where I got festive with the lab decor. And that was really fun. And more recently, this is one that I did I think last week, where on BioRender I created a science-themed virtual background. And so if you win this, you can get some gift cards, you can get some stickers and things like that. So it's really fun. Being part of social media has opened the doors for many speaker invitations. For example, the Gibco Cell Culture Hero invitation to speak about Lens epithelial explant system. So this, I actually got an amazing award out of it. This is like so cool. It's a media bottle, life size, and it's got my name engraved on it.
That's really neat.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to cherish that for life. Yeah. So some differences now between Instagram and Twitter, just quickly, the content. I find that Twitter is definitely more fast-paced. Trending papers are constantly populating the Twitter profiles, and we've got links that are clickable and very succinct text, 280 characters. Whereas Instagram, it is definitely more visual, and I feel like it could be a little bit more curated, a bit more artistic. There's a range of photos, videos, and the captions can certainly be longer. Although I do kind of keep my captions typically very short so that I can put them across Twitter and Instagram readily and just copy and paste them.
So when you're thinking about Twitter versus Instagram, do you usually use Instagram more for yourself and Twitter more to get information out, or are you still really getting information out with Instagram? Like, what's the...
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have multiple Instagram accounts. So I do have my personal Instagram account. So I keep, but for Twitter, I only have one account, which is my professional science account. So that way, I think that's a great way of doing it, is having multiple accounts, because then you segregate your personal Instagram posts or Twitter posts from your more professional scientific ones. And that way your Discover page or your like feed will be more pertinent to the particular account. So if you do like particular music and you want to post about that or something, or promote the bands that you really enjoy listening to, it's not going to be like a mix of music and science experiments and things like that. Rather, yeah. So it's kind of a cleaner way of doing it if you have multiple accounts. It can be kind of, annoying to switch between accounts, but it's not too hard these days, because Instagram, you can kind of like hold down on your account kind of icon, and you can easily switch between accounts. In the past, you'd have to log out and then log back in and, put your password in again, which was kind of laborious, but now they've made it quite easy. So I do think for anybody who's starting up if they already have their existing Twitter and Instagram accounts, to keep that existing account, but then create a science-specific one.
Oh, okay. So here's a question that came in. I honestly don't have any knowledge about this at all. So the question is, do you use Hootsuite?
Oh, yeah. I have in the past. I've looked into it, but because it was like so confusing to me in the past,
have to explain what Hootsuite is.
Oh, yeah. So backtracking. Yeah. Hootsuite is a great way of just scheduling everything, and just I think you can ask Hootsuite to, if you have that one photo, for example, with the caption already done, you can get that to be posted over all your like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything gets the same post.
Got it.
And you can schedule it, so you can sit down one day of the week and literally plan out your entire month's worth of posts. And then you can just like let it go and just let Hootsuite take over. I think that at least in my mind, that's what it would do. And that would be a dream. But then for me, I kind of post like on the fly. So I'll see something, I'll post it. So for me, like, it's easier for me not to use something scheduled.
Right.
But yeah, everyone's different. So yeah, Hootsuite might be the solution for someone who has like a vision for what they want their Twitter or Instagram to look like. Because you can, especially for Instagram, if you zoom out to the kind of 3x3 grid layout, you can kind of almost create something very magazine-like that pertains to your kind of aesthetic, like appeal sort of thing. Yeah.
So would you recommend Hootsuite for someone who, say, for instance, is managing the social media for the lab?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. So the lab account is something that it could be very collaborative, in the sense that you you can have like permission granted for each lab member to take on the responsibility to post for that particular month. So month-to-month basis. And that person will then be like, okay, well, how do I streamline this? I've got it for a month. I need to post like one a day. Well, how about I use Hootsuite to do that? So that might be a good solution for somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because, you're doing other things along with being the social media person for your lab, right?
Yeah, exactly. It will take time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. The demographics are different on Instagram and Twitter. Generally, Twitter has a wider audience, at least from my observations. I find that I've got PhD students all the way to PIs, whereas on Instagram it tends to be younger scientists. I don't see many PIs on Instagram, and more of the journals and societies, associations I do find on Twitter as well. I often don't see a lot of the journals, especially on Instagram. And then finally, developing your own online CV. A great way to collate everything on your digital presence is to create that online website. So creating this website means investing a bit of money in, but it really helps to put everything together. And because you're posting on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of this stuff, all these links are generated. And then one place you can put them all together is on your personal website. And you can also try your hand at blogging, which is a great way of sharing your know-how to the scientific community. For example, tips on poster presentations or writing a research paper. You can share that information with other people. And you can even blog about your papers and have like a lay summary of what your paper is about, and potentially even the story behind how you came to these conclusions. And that could potentially also boost your citations. So in summary, my top tips are to start now, especially with generating your handle, because if you wait and delay that, well, chances are your handle of choice will be taken. So it's good to lock in your account name, at least now. You don't have to post, but at least you've locked in your name, and then you can have that from moving forward. Posting regularly is great, and engaging, commenting, and building that networking community, and above all, having fun. So thank you for tuning in. Follow me at iDaisyShu, and I'll see you in the Twitter sphere.
Sure. All right. So just a couple more questions. For instance, how can you find someone on Twitter if you're looking for someone? Is it possible? How do you find them? Like, you don't know what their handle is. It's like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so sometimes, obviously, allosteric site, that's a clever, witty pun for Eric Perkins, which I wouldn't have been able to pick up on. And so that's something you just have to know, and you have to find out by directly contacting the person. I actually have my Twitter handle in my email signature, so people can readily get access to that. So that's a great way of doing it. And instantly, you don't have to ask the person. You've already got it in the signature, so it's super easy. Yeah.
Cool. So let's see. So there's another question. Social media covers so many different time zones. Do you notice that it's better to post at a certain time of day necessarily, or is it just whenever you get to it? I mean, Twitter, sometimes it seems to me like, if you've gone more than 10 minutes, it's lost, right?
Yeah, I don't know how the algorithms do it, because I am someone who just posts on the fly. So like, I haven't really been that observant of whether the times and the relationship between the engagement. But I do find, depends on your following, because I have a lot of Australian followers as well. So I'm getting I'm getting it all across the board. So I can post in my time zone and get likes and engagement from my time zone. And then if I post a different time, I'm getting the likes and engagement from the Australian people, I think. So yeah, but as I honestly, I think my take home message from like all my observations of when I tweet and when I post I find that really comes down to having a photo attached to it. Because I find that if I add that visual interest, emojis, photo, rather than just simply a chunk of text, that's going to get me more likes and better responses than if I don't do that. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I've got for today. Again, thank you for coming over and sharing with us a wonderful slide. So we've had a really good conversation. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Goldfire.
All
Thanks,
right.
Chris.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us. And we will be recording this, and we will have the link sent out within tomorrow, maybe Monday at the latest, so you can replay this at your convenience. All right. But thanks, everybody, for signing in, and have a good day. Bye, Daisy.
See ya. Bye.